In this unit of module 7, we move on to how to contribute to meetings. In the last session, we looked at how to lead meetings, and we agreed that at this stage probably you will be participating in meetings rather than leading meetings. So, let us look at how can one contribute effectively to a meeting. The reason why we resent going to meetings is we feel, oh, what's in it for me? How is it going to make a difference to me, or how am I going to make a difference? Also, some of us don't like, we feel that we have nothing to contribute. Some of us feel that once I'm asked to contribute, I'll dry up, I won't know what to say. So, let's look at how can one make productive, important contributions to a meeting by participating in an effective manner. There are 4 parts of the 4 ways in which you can contribute, 4 parts to it. Let us look at these 4 parts. One is introducing and presenting our ideas clearly and precisely. This is the first part, and I am going to show you in a separate module how do you present your ideas very clearly and concisely. The second part is appreciating and building upon others' perspectives and ideas. This is the second part. In the third part, the third aspect is being influential and dealing effectively with conflict, and finally, maintaining and building our confidence in our ability and right to contribute. So, let us begin from the beginning. Introducing and presenting our ideas clearly and concisely. How does one do this? You can do this by using the PIR technique. What is the PIR technique? The PIR technique refers to, first of all, when you try to talk to people, you will find that most people are preoccupied with something. They are either chatting with each other or looking at their phones or thinking about something else. So, first thing is to stop them from being preoccupied. The second is to use, one way of breaking people or getting their attention is to greet them. Whether you are leading a meeting or you are contributing the meeting, ask them to address them and say you are going to start the meeting or you have something important to say, and then follow it up with an icebreaker. An icebreaker which will help to break the ice with the others. Suppose you've just started, you can say something casual, something informal to establish a relationship with people. And the third is introduce something, tell them something to show how what you're saying is relevant to them. This is the PIR technique. The second is use the 3 T's. What are the 3 T's? Tell people what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Remember, people's attention spans are very small. So, if you've told them something, it's likely that they have forgotten what you said within a few minutes of what you said to them. So, there's no harm in repeating what you said. Tell them what you're going to say, tell them what you have said. This is the 3T formula. Use the association principle. What do we mean by association principle? Whenever you are explaining something to somebody or introducing an idea, unless people are able to relate to what you're saying, they're not going to understand, or they're not going to pay any attention to them. So, suppose you're going to talk to them about increasing security on your in your organization. So, suppose you were to refer to a personal example of someone who was robbed, or who had his room or his office broken in or his house broken in. If you relate it to them by using associations, people are more likely to pay attention to you. Pay attention to what you say last, make your endings. So, when you conclude, make it something that people will remember, make it something memorable so that they'll remember what you said. So, introducing and presenting your ideas clearly and concisely. The second part is, what is the inappropriate behavior? This is when you deliberately ignore some group members, either because you don't like them or because you're not interested in what these people have to say. The second is to belittle, not giving respect to other people's contributions, and blocking, which is constantly raising objections and bringing up the same issue after the group has considered or rejected it, thus delaying progress towards the goal. So, these are all parts of the second aspect of contributing, that is appreciating and building on others' perspectives and ideas. Remember, what's the idea of a meeting? It's not just to express your ideas, it's not just to share others' ideas, but also know what the rest of the people have to say on something, understand their mindset, understand their attitudes, understand how they feel about it. And so this quality, appreciating and building on others' perspectives and ideas in order to be able to contribute effectively yourself, is very important. So, what are the ways you can do this? One important way through which you can do this is using the laser technique. What is the laser technique? Listen to people carefully. Acknowledge what they have said. Don't belittle. Don't dismiss what they have to say. Acknowledge what they have said. Summarize what others have said. In order to understand what they have said, if you summarize what they have said, you will understand their mindset properly. You also need to explore, and finally to review. Now, you can use building phrases in order to understand others' perspectives or to build on. So, suppose someone has made a very interesting or very cogent or very important point before you, but you have something to add to it, or you have something to you have to disagree with the person. So, you could use phrases, building phrases of this kind. I agree, I like what you said, in addition we could, building on your good start. So, this is how you can come in. Building on your good start, we could, something that could complement your interesting idea is, that's a good point you make or you made. I think we could explore it by, you could also say, your idea is very helpful. One specific aspect of which we could develop is, your idea is very promising, something that could make it a reality. This is one way people think, okay, we are all on the same plane. They think, okay, you are acknowledging their contributions. They feel that you are not against them. They feel that they have made something they have also made a meaningful contribution. So, that's a very imaginative idea of yours. I think a good way of implementing it could be. So, this is the way you can use building phrases to appreciate and build on others' perspectives and ideas. Another way of appreciating and building on others' perspectives and ideas is to identify the other person's mindset. Now, if we are listening to other people, we need to understand where they are coming from. What is their mindset? In order to appreciate what they are saying, we also need to know where they come from, what attitude do they bring to the meeting. So, we have different kind of people, and you have to decide what is the mindset of this person, so that you can appreciate and build on what they are saying. So, there are people who think of a very big picture, there are people who like detail, people who personally identify with issues, those who keep things at arm's length, people that look to future goals and challenges, those who look to avoiding mistakes and crisis situations, people that act on their own internal values, people that like to check out the worth of things by gaining feedback from people that like to identify and play around with options and ideas, people that like to narrow things down and think in terms of specific processes and methods. So, there are also people that like to look for similarities. Then there is a last group of people who like to look for difference. So, first you decide what is the person's mindset, so that you can build on that perspective and add to it. So, suppose there is a person who thinks of a big picture. There are people who say, what's the overall message here? or somebody who likes to identify with issues, they say, I have a problem, I cannot see my way out of it. Or there are others who keep warning you by saying, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again, or we need to get around these upcoming obstacles. Or people who like to look at a specific process, they say, okay, what steps are we going to take to make this happen? What does the flow chart of this process look like? People who look for similarities. So you need to identify the mindset of different kinds of people. Identify the other person's mindset and do your best to listen empathetically. In order to understand the other person's mindset, the best way of doing it, the best way of appreciating other people's ideas is empathetic listening. What is empathetic listening? Empathetic listening comes from empathy. What is empathy? Empathy sounds like sympathy, but it's not sympathy, because sympathy means feeling, feeling concern for someone. But empathy is different. It means you put yourself in the place of the other person and try to think by putting yourself in their shoes, by understanding their way of thinking. Only then you are able to understand what their problem with something is. So in addition to listening to people, you must also immerse yourself in their words, thoughts and imagery, and stop thinking about your own agenda and what you might want to say in response. If you do this, your inner concentration on what is being said will shine through to your outward behavior, and those attending the meeting will see you as an excellent listener. This will encourage people to talk to you, so making it easier for you to identify the differing views around the table. Also, when the time comes for you to make your own contributions, people will be more than happy to listen to you because you listen to them. The other part of it is now the third part. We come to the third part of how one can contribute effectively to a meeting. In the third part, we look at how can one be influential and deal effectively with conflict. As I said earlier, real meetings are not ideal situations. Real meetings are places which are shows of power, which are ego, which are demonstrations of domination and control and authority and rivalry and jealousy and competition and so on, and also conflict. Now, conflict should not be regarded as something unhealthy, because not recognizing conflict is more unhealthy, because it would be very unnatural if there would be no conflict between a group of people. A group of people are bound to have conflicts with one another, and the way of dealing with conflict is not to deny the presence of conflict and pretend that everything is okay. The way of dealing with conflict is the way of recognizing conflict and dealing with conflict is to find a way of getting people who are conflicting or to resolve conflicts. So there are two kinds of conflicts. There are two kinds of conflicts. One kind of conflict is a hot conflict. Now, hot conflict is a passionate and fiery conflict. It happens when people care deeply about the topic under discussion, and often you will find people screaming at one another. People don't come to fisticuffs, but they do scream at one another, and they shout at each other, they say unpleasant things to one another, and the discussions or the meeting get very unpleasant and very fiery. But there's another kind of conflict, which is cold conflict, and cold conflict, mind you, is even more dangerous than hot conflict, because cold conflict is detached and icy. People don't, even though they are in a position of conflict with one another, they don't state it openly. They don't they remain very civil, they are very cold and icy. And it happens when this is more dangerous kind of a conflict, because this is when people become cynical and icy. So what are the things you can do to deal effectively with conflict? Let's look at those. Use the 6 stages of verbal judo when managing conflict situations. First of all, ask for people's cooperation. There is nothing more disarming than a person seeking for people's cooperation, because remember, people are meeting to resolve differences. People are coming together as a group in order to cooperate with one another, not to fight with one another. So begin by seeking their cooperation. Explain why we need to get their cooperation. Show them the objectives. Tell them the background and the context of the situation, and tell them why they need to cooperate in order to come to a resolution. Acknowledge people's reactions and summarize their position. As we discussed the laser technique, it can be used. Don't wish away or don't dismiss people's reaction. Remember, if someone is feeling angry or someone is in conflict with one another, there is definitely a reason for that. And if you say, well, these people are just disagreeing with one another and they are unreasonable people, that doesn't help. Instead of that, you must try to recognize why are they feeling the way they are feeling. What are their reactions? So listen to their reactions, try to understand what is creating the conflict situation. Acknowledge their reactions and try to summarize why they are saying what they are saying. Outline the options for addressing the situation. So if there is a conflict situation, you can describe the most favored options first, then the least favored, and then finish by summarizing the most favored options again. So this way, even if people have a conflict, and if you tell them that, look, one has to choose between one of the various options available to them, then people are more likely to find a way of resolving their conflict. Confirm the current situation. What agreements can be made about the way forward? What disagreement? So there are meetings never end to everyone's optimum satisfaction. There is always some disquiet left. So if there are some disagreements or problems, you must be aware of those problems. What agreements can be made? And finally, act on agreements and address the problem areas. So this was a way of being influential and dealing effectively with conflict. Now we come to the final part, which is maintaining and building our confidence in our ability to contribute. Now you have to ask yourself, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind of person who dominates a meeting? Are you the kind of person who doesn't speak at a meeting at all, who remains silent? And I'll also introduce you to the various kind of roles that you can adopt in any given meeting, depending on your temperament. Rather, adopting the roles, these are the roles we find ourselves taking in a meeting. You need to find out what is the role that you take in a meeting. So this is more pertinent to people who don't have the confidence to speak out at a meeting because they feel that they have nothing to contribute. And I often find this happening in meetings I have attended, that the more junior colleagues in the meeting, even if they have something very meaningful to contribute, they're always thinking about the pros and cons of saying. They're very cautious in using words because they are afraid of creating an unfavorable impression. So they choose the option of not saying anything at all, and even when they are asked to contribute, they are very guarded. They They say things very carefully, and they usually sit on the fence. They try to sense what the mood of the entire group is, which way the wind is blowing, and they try to align themselves with the more strong group because they are afraid. So yes, you might by aligning yourself with a strong group, you might find favors with that group, or you might get into the good books of that group, but you are losing an opportunity of contributing or putting forward your real thoughts and ideas. It's possible that you had something more interesting to contribute or more meaningful to contribute than those who had their say but were prevented or refrained from doing so because of your reticence. So first thing that you need to find out, and this is something you can do even before you attend the meeting, because when you look at the agenda items, you know what is the agenda, what is going to be discussed, and what is the role you can play there. How can you contribute to a particular item on the agenda or all the items on the agenda? How do you do this? So first of all, you must look at, if you are one of those people who feels that how can I say anything at a meeting and remain tongue-tied at a meeting, you have to find your unique selling point. Maybe you are the youngest, but maybe you have some special talents which no one in the group has. Maybe you are the expert in that area. So what is that one characteristic, item of expertise or personal experience or resource that you possess that will encourage others to buy into your presence at the meeting and listen to your contributions? So you may possess status, access to funds, specialist knowledge and expertise that's of great value to those present at the meeting. If you have so you must know what are your strengths. If you have a clear idea about your strength, your worth to the meeting, that will help you to make more confident and encourage you to become more forthright when making your contributions. The second thing you need to know when you are maintaining and building your confidence in your ability to contribute is methodically and specifically disputing negative beliefs and assumptions. So this comes from a very poor self-image or thinking of the consequences. Many of us are diffident because we don't want to take responsibility. We are afraid of the consequences of what we say and what we do, how would it be interpreted, and so what you need to do is, what specific evidence can you find to dispute the negative beliefs troubling you? Rather than blaming yourself, what other reasons could there be for situations causing your negative beliefs? What are the real implications of the situations you are talking about, thinking about negatively? What's the ultimate usefulness of negative beliefs you hold, and what positive things could you start thinking or doing in order to replace them? Say you had an experience at a meeting and you suggested something and your idea was brutally rejected. So it's possible that you think, okay, I made the suggestions at the last meeting and no one really heard me out, whatever the reason might be. So this time you're very cautious. You keep your mouth shut because you feel that this time again no one would be willing to listen to you. But it's possible that the last time when your idea was turned down, maybe the idea was not good enough, maybe the person who turned it down was a negative kind of person. It could also be that the climate in which it was presented, the situation has changed. So don't worry about negative beliefs. Third thing you could do is to specify and reaffirm your right to attend the meeting and make your contribution. So now many of us, I myself find myself doing it, that we feel that why should I attend the meeting? I have nothing to contribute to it. You know, the meeting is about issues or topics in which I have no say in the matter or I have no expertise. So what could I possibly do if I go to the meeting? Now, if you are clear, if you can think by reading the agenda carefully and you're clear that this, maybe I'm not an expert in this area, but this is an area where I am an expert in, and maybe this is an area in which I can make a valuable contribution. So, if you are asked to come to your meeting, if you have be clear in your mind about your right to attend the meeting. It may be as a result of your unique selling point, or it may be because you are representing your team, colleagues, or some other part of the organization. You may find it useful to write out the rights you feel you have. Before attending each meeting, remind yourself of your specific right to be there. What are the other ways in which you can maintain and build your confidence in your ability to contribute? So, think positive. Most of us who are hesitant to make contributions, we are negative in our outlook, and I include myself in that group. Very often I find myself getting into a negative mode and thinking, no, I don't really need to do this. And I find people who make valuable contributions, or who people like listening to, are the ones who are always positive, who always set themselves positive goals rather than negative goals. So, think about the positive things you want to achieve during a meeting, then think about how you can achieve them. So, instead of thinking negatively and say, okay, I don't want to be ignored, or I must not get angry, you can start by thinking, what would I do and what are the goals I'd achieve. Negative goals merely serve to draw your attention to the very things you are trying to avoid. So, instead concentrate on visualizing the positive things that you want to achieve. Make these more helpful things bright and clear in your mind. And finally, what you can do is assume the positive intent of those attending the meeting. Now, this happens to people who are skeptics, who always feel, who have no trust in the people who are attending the meeting. So, they always feel that people who are coming to the meeting, and mind you, this is not untrue altogether. You'll find yourself attending meetings many a times where people have a very specific agenda, they have hidden agendas. I myself attended meetings where the meeting is just there to ratify a decision which has already been taken, and you feel that people are just going through the motions and the decision has already been made. So, it's not untrue, but going to every meeting thinking that those who are attending the meeting don't have a positive intent is adopting a very negative attitude. So, make positive assumptions about the motives and the likely reactions of other people at the meeting. If you do that, it will make you less defensive. As a result, you will deliver your contributions with greater confidence and credibility. Remember that even if there are some difficult non-supportive people at the meeting, they are likely to be in the minority and be positively influenced by the rest of the people surrounding them. And finally, what you could do is that I'm sure there are meetings in which you made a valuable contribution, where your ideas were appreciated, and you could think of those meetings where you made an impact and put yourself into the future and visualize yourself having attended your next meeting. You did very well, you came across confidently and made your points very effectively, you were listened to and you gained agreement. Now, think of all the steps that you went through to make this success happen. Start with the pre-meeting preparation and think about your contributions to the meeting. What specifically did you do at each stage to ensure this overall success? Now, create an action plan for your next meeting based on your thoughts. This technique works because it encourages you to think about the positive things that could happen in the future and the way you can make them happen, rather than think about negative things that hinder your effectiveness. So, in this unit, we looked at 4 different aspects of contributing to a meeting. One is introducing your ideas. The second is let's come back and revisit those 4 goals. One is introducing introducing and presenting your ideas clearly and concisely. appreciating and building upon others' perspectives and ideas. Third was being influential and dealing effectively with conflict, and finally maintaining and building confidence in our ability and right to contribute. So, with this I conclude this unit, and we will move on to how do you present your ideas and make an impact in a meeting very clearly and concisely.